Good evening. Welcome to Blanc Township Board of Trustees meeting for Thursday, September 12th. And we'd like to start with the pledge. Mr. Thomas, can you lead us in the pledge?
Yes, sir.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Excellent.
And we recite the pledge, especially this week in memory of all those individuals that we lost on 9/11 and all of our first responders and citizens, and makes that extra special this week. With that, I'm going to ask, as we call the meeting to order, for approval of the consent agenda and the regular agenda.
So moved.
Support. Okay, we got a motion and support. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have been very fortunate to have quite a substantial contribution made to the township as we brought our firefighters in-house here and made some changes. We had to quickly renovate the space that we had in previous years used for fire department. And with that renovation, Mr. Lehman, our superintendent, and his staff in the fire department worked tirelessly to turn that place around within a couple of months. And as I mentioned, we received a very generous donation from the Thomas family for the kitchen appliances. And we wanted to take a few moments this evening to recognize Mr. Don Thomas, who in an untimely fashion passed away a few months ago, and was very close to our firefighters, along with Ken, who serves on our township board. And we're very appreciative, and we wanted to show a little bit of that appreciation tonight as we recognize the contribution not only of the kitchen, but contribution over the years that their families made to our fire department. So with that, what I'd like to do, and hopefully all of you have had a chance to take a tour of the fire department and the kitchen area. If not, we're going to be open over there for an open house until 8 o'clock. So feel free, after we make this dedication here in a few moments, that you take the time to go over there and meet with some of our dedicated men and women and take a look at the great kitchen and the rest of the equipment there. With that, I would like to ask, and I'll be joining you in just a moment, but Miss Thomas, Charlene Thomas, Don's mom, to come up front, Don and Ken's mom, Emily Thomas, Don's daughter, Tina Christensen, and Wally Peters. And Ken, why don't you come and join us as well? What we'd like to do is actually have you face this way so that the cameras pick you up, and you get two people here with the one person with the media here as well. But first off, we have a little plaque that will be hanging in the kitchen of the fire department that reads Don Thomas Fire Department Kitchen, dedicated to the memory of Donald A. Thomas of Thomas Appliance, February 3rd, 1965 to May 11th, 2019. In recognition of the Thomas family and their generous donation of appliances to our fire department. And this will hang in our kitchen area. So we have a resolution also that will be printed up a little more formally. But just to read it off, resolution in appreciation of Donald Thomas. Whereas the Thomas family has been serving the community since 1911, either by providing sales and service from Thomas Appliance or serving numerous charitable causes in Genesee County. And whereas Don Thomas exemplified the dedication of the family by serving as CEO of Thomas Appliance since 1989 and is involved in numerous charitable endeavors, including the Boy Scouts, creating and donating to the K-9 program and golf outing, Back to the Bricks, Perry Homestead, McFarland Library, and Parks and Recreation. And whereas, in keeping Don's charitable spirit, the Thomas family has equipped the Township Fire Hall with the latest amenities for the benefit of the township firefighters. Now therefore be it resolved that the Charter Township of Grand Blanc expresses its sincere gratitude to the Thomas family for the generous donation in the name of Don Thomas, and endeavors that his kindness and charitable spirit carry forward. And that's signed by the Township Clerk and myself. But, thank you very much for all of you.
I'd just like to say thank you to everybody. That's really a nice thing you're doing, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Ken?
One of the greater things that my family, our family's been in Genesee County area, so supporting the community since 1911. In fact, we found out this summer that we're the oldest appliance store in the country. But one of the things that was always taught to me by my father, my mother, my grandfather, my older brother, is that you support the community that supports you. One of the greatest gifts that we always can give is that of ourselves. And you're not going to be remembered for, the monetary things. You're not going to be remembered for the daily things that you do. You're going to be remembered for the community and the people that support you. When our chief here, Bob Burdette, came into the store and we were talking about the move, I was on the strategic plan with the fire department with Bob, our chief. And Donnie's first comment is, well, how much is this going to cost us now? Because it was, was it last summer we gave the washer and dryer?
Yes.
So this was something that Donnie wanted to do. And so, and continuing with my brother's wishes, of course, that's what we did. Everybody on this board and past members, we all give of ourselves, and it's from the bottom of our hearts. And we owe our lives to you guys. We owe our lives to our police, and it just means so much for you. And my brother's best man is here, and Delta, and his great family, great friends, and thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Em?
Just thank you.
Tina, you want to say something?
Well, it's a very difficult time, to speak of somebody you love so greatly, that's given so much to our community, and understand that our township very much appreciates how you give and what you've given in the past, but I know you continue to give. So thank you very much from the bottom of our hearts. Okay? Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Feel free, if you would like, to go over to the kitchen area now. I know that that's going to be open for another 45 minutes, and our firefighters will be glad to show you around, show you the kitchen, and show you the equipment. So we appreciate all they do, and thanks for being here this evening. Thank you. With that, Chief.
Now about that tax increase we've been working on.
That was a couple meetings ago, Mr. Thomas.
I thought I read in the paper where we voted to decrease it.
That's right.
I think you missed that meeting.
I thought everyone was here to congratulate us that the taxes went down.
Okay, with that, we've approved the consent agenda and the regular agenda, and we are moving on to public comment at this time. So if anyone, we're going to have comment during the public hearing, I believe. So if you're here to comment on the street paving issue, we'll have a separate time for you to speak on that issue. But if you'd just like to have general comment with regard to the township business, we would invite you to come forward now. Give us your name and address, and you'd have 3 minutes to speak. So would anybody on the left side of the room care to speak? Anybody on the right side of the room? How about in the back of the room? Oh, Jenny, sure.
Got mixed up with your left and right, is not.
Oh, okay. Well, I should have raised my hand a little bit and having a little bit of trouble raising my left hand.
My name is Jenny Nag. I live at 3305 East Hill Road here in the township, and I'm here tonight as a member of the Grand Blanc Historic District Commission to give you a little bit of an update on what's going on and what's happening. Lisa is passing out the flyers that she made. She's a volunteer, another one of our wonderful volunteers.
That's gorgeous,
Isn't that nice?
It's beautiful.
I think this is
Beautiful.
the nicest one that we've ever had.
by far.
So, to look at my bullet points and start out, the first thing that I want to mention, besides the date, October the 5th, it's a Saturday, from 11 until 3, we will have the unveiling and the dedication of the State of Michigan Historic Marker, which we have been working on. I've been trying to figure out with Lisa how long it's been. I am sure that this project has been in the works at least 10 years, and I think is closer to 12. There have been, I think, 3 different township administrations that we've had to educate along the way as to the significance and importance of historic preservation. Anyway, that being said, let me move on. You will also, if you're at the parade or have anything to do with it, you will see us have a position in the parade with a historical truck and some banners so that more people can find out about the open house. Hopefully that'll bring a few more people in. And then moving on to the Pioneer Days itself, for several different open houses now, we've had a petting zoo, which seems to be hugely popular, so we're expanding the time that the petting zoo will be there. They have bubble machines, they have face painting. It's something that the kids really, really enjoy. There's also going to be a children's craft table. I'm not sure what the craft will be, but that's always a popular place, something for kids to do. Don Simons will be there yet again with his display of artifacts that he has found on the archaeological dig that's being done at the site. Hopefully members of the tractor club will come with their antique tractors, and we heard that there's a gentleman who has a corn sheller, and I will provide the corn if he provides the sheller, and people can see how dried corn was taken off the cob, so it could be used for whatever uses. If it was used for grinding for cornmeal or animal feed, chicken feed, whatever, maybe we can feed it to some of the animals at the petting zoo. I don't know. Then, oh yes, we have some musicians. A husband and wife team. He plays guitar, she plays the dulcimer. They played at the open house we had in the spring. That was very well received. They have asked if they could come back. And then we have another volunteer who seems to have an interest and expertise in any number of different crafts. She's a spinner. She is a knitter, she does origami, she also does wheat weaving. She's of Scandinavian descent. She will be there, and she also has purchased the rope making machine, which she very kindly brings, and children can make rope out of strands of twine. Now, there is one other thing that I want to mention, because I did look through the agenda online before I came, and I see that there is on the agenda consideration of a motion to approve the proposal for Case Construction to finish the kitchen remodel in the house. Now, there's practical reason I bring this up, because in order for us to fill a large container to put water in our coffee maker, we have to go outdoors, turn on the water, let the water come out of the hose, fill our container, take it back inside so we can make coffee, because there is no sink at all in the kitchen, and the sinks in the bathroom are too small to do that. So if you can find that in your budget, and you can see, I hope, how this would be worthwhile, I hope you will consider approval. We also have to wash our dishes the same way at the end of these events. So that's all I have to say. Thank you for your time, and I hope to see some of you at the open house.
It's going to be a busy day. Good Eagle Scouts and what have you going on that day. Thank you very much, Janine. Okay, any other public comment? Anybody in the back row? Okay, with Mr.
I'd just like to bring up that at Tuesday's meeting, I brought up that this, for the Perry House Kitchen, and I appreciate the comments, we need the information. My comment was, does this include everything they need? It sounds like it doesn't. Thank you.
I think we asked that question on Tuesday, and I thought they told us it did include everything. I don't know.
Yeah, that resolution included everything they needed for the kitchen.
Not water.
No,
No, it's
we already
not-
have
it's
water.
got a- We already got a sink. I don't know
I'm
why
not
the
sure why they
water's
have to
turned
go
off.
outside to get water, but
I don't have a clue.
I'm not sure why they'd have to go outside to get water, but there's water in the building.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay,
There's no cabinet?
but it includes the sink. Yeah, but it includes the sink on the plan, right?
the cabinet, not, because we already bought the really cool.
Yeah, so they'll have the sink with water. The water's already connected, so.
So it includes everything.
Yes,
Right. Okay.
but the kitchen sink.
Okay, so with that, we'll close public comment, and we're going to move to approval of the, well, actually, okay, we're going to move to the public hearing for Grand Walea and for a special assessment district. Mr. Laddie?
No, you're correct. Tonight is the night we're going to consider whether we create a special assessment district for the repaving of the streets in Grand Wailea. We sent out notice to the property owners. We published twice in the paper. I believe that there has been at least one informational meeting. And so tonight's the opportunity for folks to share their thoughts with you. Also, if the board likes to kind of keep track of who's in favor and who's against the project, we have petitions that we've received that indicate that a majority of folks are in favor, although sometimes people change their mind between signing the petition and the actual hearing date. So whatever your thoughts are, now will be the time to let the board know how you feel and if you want that project to be created. If they do adopt the resolution tonight creating the district, there'll be another hearing that specifically addresses the costs, even though I think we have a pretty good idea of the cost, and Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to confirm that I think we have 143 parcels. We have right now an estimated cost of $550,000, and now an estimated per parcel cost of $3,846.15, which can be spread over a 10-year period of time. We don't know what the interest rate is. We won't know that until we actually go out for bonds, but the interest rates are usually pretty competitive because they're tax-treated banks, and so they're usually a percentage or so less than the current rate. So unless you have any questions for me, I'll sit back and listen to the comments.
Okay. And this road must be in pretty good shape because $3,800 per parcel is significantly less than, I heard a few comments before the board meeting that, wow, how did this one, get so much less expensive than others? And we've seen them as high as $20,000 per parcel.
Well, I think, and again, this is just from comments I heard on Tuesday night, and also a little bit before, but this is a lucky opportunity, frankly. I know that some people can't appreciate in the audience how expensive this can be, but if your road gets to a certain point of disrepair, the cost to repair it is a multiple if you catch it on time. And it looks to me, and I'm not an engineer, but it looks to me like this is one of those lucky times when it's not going to require a complete and very expensive overhaul.
Right. Okay, with that, I think we'll open it for public comment, and we'll start on my left side of the room, your right. And anybody that would like to comment, we'll start in the front of the room and work our way back. So if anybody would like to comment on the Grand Wailea Special Assessment District, this would be the time to come forward. We would need your name and address, and we ask you to limit it to 3 minutes. So we'll start over here. Anybody on the left side of the room wish to speak? Okay.
Mike Renee, 6526 Wailea Drive.
Okay.
First
Good evening.
house.
Welcome.
Hi. I'm all for the assessment, or whatever the
Yeah,
paving.
Special Assessment District.
Yes.
Mhm.
And I just have a comment as far as like the disrepair just around the front of the neighborhood. I feel it's due to mostly the large amount of cars that park there from the school, from the grammar school there next to us. As 3 o'clock comes along, or 2:30, they pile up in there, and then other cars that are living in the neighborhood are back and forth, so it's like an abundance of weight on the drive there that I feel maybe something needs to be done at the school to accommodate more vehicles to park in the school.
Okay.
And that's all I really had to say. I just feel that
Yeah.
I'm all for it because it's a cheap out, just like
Right.
you said. And I've
Yeah, I might talk to a
paid
school
an
board.
assessment before.
Yeah.
It was a high assessment, so
Right.
I'm all for it. So
All I would suggest is maybe talk to one of the school board members about,
yeah,
their parking
I
lot.
brought it up at the meeting.
Did you?
Yeah.
What was their response?
Well, wasn't much they could say to do
Okay.
about it, but yeah.
All right.
I see it every day when I come home, all of those cars.
Yeah.
And
We actually have a neighborhood that has a school within the center of it in our township.
yeah.
They would like the school to pay for it, the streets leading to the school, but that isn't gonna happen either, so.
There's probably nothing that can
Yeah.
be done, but I just wanted to.
Right. Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate your comments. Thanks.
I think she's cool.
Anybody else on this side of the room? We're a very friendly group, so don't be afraid of us.
My name's Tiffany Kelly. I live at 6525 Wailea Drive,
Good evening.
right across the street from Mike. Yes, we do have a lot of cars that park outside the school. I think a lot of them are actual people that live in our neighborhood. But my concern is that there was a water main break right in that area, right before I moved in. And they were supposed to fix our driveway as part of that, because our driveway sinks down about 4 inches. And that has never been repaired. But I think that's where a lot of our problem comes in, with the disrepair of the front part on our side of the road.
The front part of the subdivision, you're saying, or?
Yes, we live right by the 3 big
Oh.
middle dividers that live
Okay.
there. Are there. I also want to say, I don't know how we can go about getting our roads cleaned. The amount of gravel that builds up there because of the potholes is awful. Drag it in my house every day. I sweep the floor every day because of it. So after this is done, what can we do so we can actually get our roads clean on a consistent basis? I don't know if that's the township or if it's the county that needs to
Right.
do that. But
Well,
something
I'll
like
tell
that.
you what the county's explanation is.
Okay.
The county had been telling us, Genesee County Road Commission owns all of the streets and roads in the township.
Okay.
Cities take care of their own streets and get road funding. Townships rely on the county road commission for it. They told us originally that they send the street cleaners around once a year. I have not seen them in my subdivision. I know my wife is very upset that they don't clean all that dirt out of the street because it builds up by the curb, and
Yeah.
before you know it, you have plants growing in the street. And now they tell us every 2 years they come around, but I'm hard pressed to even believe they come around
They've been
every
there for
2
free.
years.
I've yet seen anybody, so.
So what I would encourage you to do is either talk to Mark Young, who is the county commissioner for this area, or call the road commission and
Okay.
ask them when are they coming to bring the street sweeper through your neighborhood.
Okay.
But they need to have a street sweeper
Yes.
make it through the subdivisions, I agree. It also causes a problem for us as a township because we maintain our own sewers. And that silt and what have you all gets into the
Yeah.
sewer system, and we end up having to vacuum it out.
Yeah, because that's where the biggest problem is in the neighborhood. One of the biggest problem spots, and it's right by the sewer,
Right.
which is right outside
Yep.
our driveway.
So it causes multiple problems, not just for you, but as a municipality, we end up having to spend resources on
Yep.
removing all that debris from down in the sewers as well. So, are you in favor of the
Yes,
project?
we are
then?
in favor of the project. We
Okay.
just went through all this with the sandalwood a few years ago.
Okay, all right,
Yes.
very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else on the left, on this side of the room? Care to speak? Okay, we'll move to this side of the room then. Okay, good evening.
Hi,
Hi.
Gina Mowen, 7566 Coral Drive. I'm brand new to Michigan. I
Well, welcome.
just bought the house in June, and I just moved here 2 weeks ago to
Fabulous.
read in the newspaper that I'm getting a tax assessment.
Okay.
So in Ohio, we don't do this pay your own neighborhood type of road thing. And when I asked my neighbors about it, they said they were bamboozled, that they were told the county or the township was going to pick up some of the cost. And so now they read that no, we have to pay for everything. So I would just like to know, one, who brought up the proposal? Was it the residents or was it the township? Two, how many of the 143 parcels have already said yes, they want this?
Okay.
Three, is there any way to amend this to just get the front of the neighborhood, or what do you call it?
Subdivision.
The front of the subdivision, specifically the Grand Wailea entrance, because that seems to be the only bad part. But, sorry for my ignorance, I just
Really good
moved here.
questions. Very good questions.
Okay, so me and my daughter ride our bikes through the neighborhood.
Okay.
I don't think the streets are bad, except for in the entrance. Maybe I'm not seeing what everybody else sees because I haven't been here that long, or maybe is this a way to just prevent further problems? I don't see a problem with the rest of the neighborhood, just the front that these people are talking about, where all the people for the school do park. I do see that. And I do have a problem with my driveway too because of the sinking, so I understand that. But to put this cost on every single person in the neighborhood, I don't see the justification for it. So I just would like to know how it was brought about, how many people want it, and what steps do you go through now? Like, do we still get to vote on it, or do you guys just say yes or no?
Right. Well, let's take, you have.
And I just want to say hi to all my neighbors, because I don't know anybody, so.
Okay. Well, there's an app too that you can get to know all your neighbors. It's called Nextdoor.
Okay.
And probably a number of you in this room are on that app, but it will actually verify that you live in that neighborhood and connect you to them. Our police department is on there as well, but allows you to communicate with your neighbors confidentially. But anyways, with regard to the streets, the first question was who initiated this, the township or a resident? It is always, I would say, initiated by a resident. We have the ability as a township that we could actually put together a special assessment and notify residents that, hey, we're going to pave your streets and you're going to pay for it. We have not done that. There's a few neighborhoods around that we might end up doing that because they're so bad that they're actually, I think, actually going to bring the township down by further decay, but we have not resorted to that at this point. So it was initiated by a resident. They went around and gathered signatures. I think we stated what percentage do we have, Ken?
54% of the 143 property owners
Have signed
have
petition.
signed a petition.
And on that
they wanted to
petition,
do it.
it said that each homeowner is
Yes.
100% fully responsible for
Yes.
the payments.
So now the price is an estimate at this point. What
Okay.
happens is the county actually comes out, their county engineer, and it takes a while for them to do this. I mean, we have people that are waiting a year or more to find out what the county engineer would recommend. But in your case, they looked at the entire subdivision and they deemed that if they're going to do it, they're going to do it correctly. They're not going to do it halfway. And because otherwise they get called and people are saying, I'm not paying this. The road's crumbling. It's only been a year, since we did this. So if they do it, they want to be able to stand behind their work. So they deem that the entire subdivision need to be done.
So it's an all or nothing type of
Yes.
thing? Okay.
Yeah. What was the other question? Why do residents have to pay for it?
No. No, I
Well-
didn't say why.
Well, how the road funding works in Michigan is that most of the road money comes from gas tax, federal government, and car registration. So it's all generated outside of the county at the state and federal level. That money comes to the county and it's used for primary roads. So roads like Saginaw Street, Dordt Highway, what have you. Subdivision streets are pretty much the responsibility of the neighbors that live in there. We've had a number of subdivisions that have been paved over the years. Even if we had an abundance of money here at the township when we started, subsidizing, let's say we paid 50% of it, we would have plenty of residents ready to shoot us because they paid the full amount for theirs. But unfortunately, we don't have an abundance of money where we could say, hey, we're going to pay for 50% of it. So if somebody led you to believe that, or somebody thought that we were going to pay for a portion of it and then we backed out, it wasn't anything that this board made mention of, because we've never said that we would pay a portion of it. We just don't have the funds available.
Is that a copy of the petition?
This is a
Oh.
copy of the cost that was given at that informational meeting to everybody.
The only other thing I had was, I asked how many had voted yes, but it was just based on the percentage of,
Well, we can probably give you the exact number. David, do you know the exact number?
Well, no, did you say 54%?
54% of the lineal
Do
road
you know
frontage.
the number of residents?
I
But
haven't
that's how
counted up
many-
the number of residents, but I have the petitions that were signed. And the assessing department verified the 54% of the lineal road frontage.
I think that's
Okay.
like 77 people.
77?
nobody asked me, so I'm just wondering how many other households didn't say yes or no.
Well,
Well-
this was done back in 2018. The first informational meeting that we did was back in 2018
Okay.
when the resident asked to do it. And they were all given a copy of the memo that you received, a copy of the estimate, a map, and the lineal road frontage. And that was to be given to everybody in the subdivision as these people went door to door, so that you didn't have these erroneous facts like the township or the road commission was going to be paying for anything.
Okay.
And if you
Okay.
just moved in, I'm sorry that the seller should have notified you, or their realtor should have notified you.
There was an asterisk that said possible assessment, but it
Okay.
didn't say
Right.
cost or.
Well, the nice part is you'll have great roads for probably at least the next 10
Over
years
10
or more,
years.
so.
Okay.
Okay?
All right,
Thank you very much. Welcome to Grand Blanc Township.
If you need some help getting to know your neighbors, just fly one of your Ohio State flags out front.
Actually, it's a house divided flag,
Okay.
so we won't make too many enemies.
Anyone else on the right side of the room like to speak to this issue? Good evening.
Good evening. My name's Tom Upton. I'm at 6428 Willow Court, and I apologize, but I wasn't at some of the further information meetings, so
fine.
this is the first I've attended. I haven't read any newspapers in regards to what's going on here, but ultimately I know I signed the petition, but with that I had some questions, and I don't know if there's FAQs that are going around. I haven't seen them, unfortunately, so I apologize for that. But
No problem.
you mentioned that you have a county engineer that takes a look at the project to determine the scope of the work, right? So with
Correct.
that being said, is there like a 3-process bid to contractors, or is that done via the township, or how does that work in regards to who does it? Is there a warranty for the work, and do they do core testing to make sure the density is there based off what we're paying for?
Right. The county owns and operates, or has jurisdiction over all the roads, so the bidding process is handled by them. The engineering, the quality, assurance is covered by them. David or Dennis, anything on warranty that you recall?
The county has tried with limited success to try to get as much assurance as they can from the winning bidder. I would not call what they have accomplished to be a warranty, and I wouldn't necessarily call it anything that exactly inspires a lot of confidence. But they are better than they have been in the past. And what we have found, just as a practical matter, is that when they guarantee the lifespan of a road or a repair, they estimate on the conservative side, and it turns out that they do a pretty good job of overseeing the project and getting a quality product down. So you're not going to get a warranty, but in my experience in Grand Blanc Township and other places in the county over the last 20 years, they're pretty good at getting a quality product.
Is that through the engineer, or, because ultimately you're at the mercy of whoever the contractor is? Reason why I asked, I've dealt with multiple asphalt projects, and unfortunately sometimes these contractors do not, have the proper integrity as far as making sure you get what you pay for. So I'm worried about that.
Right.
Because as you mentioned, the life of asphalt typically in Michigan or high weather states is 10 years. So we're going to be here in another 10 years, and we're going to do this at round 2, right, with 3,800 or whatever the cost is. So
Right.
that becomes concerning.
Well, and that's if you want to keep it in brand new shape.
Right.
I live in a subdivision that probably is 17 years old and it hasn't been done yet, but it's probably, my streets are at a point where we probably should do them, but whether or not the residents would pay the $4,000 per house when they don't have to be done, I don't know. Mr. Guzak?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that the Genesee County Road Commission actually does the inspections. They're out there watching these guys and making sure it's at their specs, okay? And I live in Williamsburg Farms. It was done in 2008, and they reconstructed everything. They put in drains because that subdivision did not have the tiles next to the curb, so they did the whole thing. So you can go out and drive through Williamsburg and you'll see crack sealing on it, but you can see there's no potholes or anything. That was done in 2008.
Okay.
So go look at that and run through that subdivision. But the county is very good at doing the bids, picking the best contractor, and sometimes they don't always pick the lowest. If they've heard bad stuff, they will not go with the lowest. Okay. They go with what they think is going to be the best. And they're out there inspecting it. And we've had cases where we didn't even get the final bid for a year after because they wouldn't give us the final bill until it was done to their completion.
So we will have another hearing after we get the actual cost, and at that point, maybe we can have somebody from the road commission here.
Well, what we'll do is probably get a revised estimated cost,
Right.
and then we'll have our hearing based on that estimated cost. And as Mr. Guzak pointed out, sometimes by the time punch list items are completed, we don't get the final cost until several months after the project's done. So our next hearing will likely be on a revised estimated cost. Depending on the road commission's timing, I'm not exactly sure when that would occur.
Right. I doubt that it'll be yet this year, but
No, it'll be next year.
yeah. They're
So
quite
is
a ways
that
behind.
where the original price of $550 came from the engineer determining what the scope of the work might need to be? So based off the bids, that could be a little bit different based off whatever comes through, right?
You're correct.
Could be higher or lower. For example, if we try to get it in yet this season, it'd probably be a lot higher just
Oh,
because
yeah.
everybody's booked up.
So again, I guess prior to selection, you'll have another hearing just so we can kind of hear as far as what direction the 3 bids in regards to what's going on there.
Mr. Massey?
That hearing,
Oh,
our
sorry.
hearing will happen before the bids come in. In other words, we're going to hold our cost hearing with a revised estimate, and then they're going to bid the project. So we're going to have to. It's a bit of a leap of faith at that point. But again, they've been very good at selecting the bidders, at refining the bid, and I'll also say this: they are pretty good at estimating the cost as the project winds up. So I can say that with confidence that they usually are pretty much on the right track.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to
Mr.
ask
Massey?
them a question.
Sure.
May I ask them a question?
Sure. I think one of our trustees has a question for you, sir. Right. What's your question, Mr. Massey?
He has not, excuse me, he has knowledge of asphalt, more or less like the lifespan of asphalt in certain areas. Based on your expertise in that area, what would you say would be a good warranty?
Well, it depends on how much you pay. So like I said, I've been with the company I work for, I deal with asphalt projects on a periodic basis in regards to where I work. So it's quite extensive in regards to, I've had issues with multiple different contractors. As I said, that's why I'm asking about the core testing to make sure the density's there in regards to the bids with laying it properly. So, I mean, it all depends on how much you pay. So $550,000, there should be some type of warranty there, a couple of years. It's all about talking to the contractor and saying, hey, multiple bids, this is what we expect. And we're the customer, right? So we want to get what we pay for.
Okay, well, hopefully, maybe we can even have the engineer at the next hearing.
Yep.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks. Yes,
And there is no reason why you cannot be out there on that job and checking it. You are the customer, and they're there for your satisfaction.
well, you have to go through the county. but-
Yo, I know,
Yeah,
but
right.
if you see something that's wrong, you go through the county and,
Okay.
Sure.
seriously.
Yeah, I mean, residents notify us all the time of, hey, they're working on this project and this doesn't look right.
Just don't
So-
wait until it's done so they can't correct it.
Well, you don't, obviously you probably cut half a check first and then when the second part or last part, however it works, then final
Right.
before you release it. So, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else on this side of the room? Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Julie Neiman and my husband Steve is here too. We're 7413 Waterfall Drive.
Welcome.
We are against this.
Okay.
I also want to state Kathy said something about all of us should have been approached, been given a packet. No one ever came to our house. We were never able to have that chance to say we disagreed with this. I've talked to 2 other neighbors who said the same thing. My assumption is because as she stated, the only bad part is the front entrance. I think they kind of cherry picked where they went for signatures would be my guess. So I just want that stated for the record, okay? I agree with her. The front entrance is bad and we as a family would support the front entrance. And there's even one other corner in the subdivision that's bad. But to do the whole subdivision back where we're at, Paradise and Waterfall, there's no potholes, there's nothing wrong with those roads. It's basically the front entrance and one other corner.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, being that it's volunteers that take the petition around, it's not the township, so it's fellow residents in your neighborhood. You know, I would imagine if they reach the threshold of reaching 54% or 51%, they probably, hey, you know what, I've got other stuff to do. So with that, they probably, maybe they came around and you weren't home too, so. Okay, thank you very much. Come on up front, sir.
Hello,
Good evening.
my name is Andy Molesky. I'm at 7500 Paradise Drive. I actually initiated
Okay.
the proposal
All right,
for the roads,
thank you.
and I was one that went out to all the houses, delivered pamphlets, door to door, to start this meeting and this discussion. I, for one, I want the roads done. I think it's an eyesore. I think it's something we should assess. I wanted to get the majority of the subdivision on board. If they didn't like it, fine. If I couldn't get 54% or 51%, then we wouldn't do it. That's fine. We had 4 people go around with the petitions to each house. It's not an easy thing to do. Most often people aren't home. So if you didn't get the information packet, which was also available at the meeting, and you weren't here, so I get that, but we did our best to do what we could do, but we got 54%, and here's where we are.
Right.
This is informational. It's still not a go, right?
Well, they have a resolution in front of them tonight that can take the first of
Right,
2 steps to make it a go.
We're at a point where we can go. I mean, we have the majority. I guess there's a way that if someone is dead set against it, they can get petitions to retract that, correct?
No, that's not correct.
That is not correct.
If the board accepts the petitions tonight and moves forward on the first resolution, then it cannot be stopped by a counter petition. So the only way it could be stopped in the future is if the township board stopped the project.
Okay. So at any rate, I just wanted to present myself. I'm the one that started this, and we did our best to get the information out to the subdivision.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna, if you wanted,
Just because of the entrance, or you
We're gonna-
the entire development?
You need.
Yeah, we need to, anybody who wants to ask questions amongst each other, we need to carry that out somewhere else, but.
I mean, I tried to go each route. I wanted the bad parts done.
Right. Well, thank you very much, and we appreciate your work.
We can talk after if you like.
As a township board, I know that, we have to go based on what the majority would like in a neighborhood. And people that, if they reverse their decision, Mr. Laddie, they can let that be known as well, and we can change their wishes on the petition. But if they voted in the affirmative, they can change that if they choose to. But
that's true. And before you close the hearing, you did get somebody that said, I did sign a petition, but I've changed my mind.
Should we read this, or?
No, I think you just have to note it for the record.
Okay.
Just note
We
it.
received a letter from Mr. Leonard Cox, and he said that he's going to reverse his decision. He has a number of questions that we'll address in writing, but I think most of them we probably have addressed this evening. Anybody else care to comment? Yes, sir. Good evening.
Well, I'm Martin Natchez, 7532 Waterfall Drive. I've been in the subdivision since phase 2, and my location is basically one way in and one way out, and that's on Maui, and I have no problems with that road. But I've been here since December 2001. And yes, I agree that the main entrance to the subdivision is in critical, serious, and dire repair, which needs attention. But I also agree with one of the prior speakers that the whole entire subdivision does not need to be repaved. Mr. Molesky, if that is your name, and I apologize if I might have misheard it. I can see where a resident in our subdivision wants to take action to have the subdivision have better transportation, better safety, and a better look, not only for resale value, but for current values. And since I've been here since 2001, in the winter, we've had patch jobs, of which I've had no problem with, because I'm in the back of the subdivision, where phase 2 and phase 3 was. And I agree that the entire subdivision does not need a new coat of asphalt. And that when the people who are going to come in and go through street by street, that there should be a logical yet decisive presentation made to the residents by some communication that we know why the entire subdivision will need to be done and why we will have to pay for it. My last thought too is that all of our houses are not assessed equally, and that being forced to pay equally for a job, all for one and one for all, does not sit well with me. So I just ask for fairness. I just ask for logic, and I hope that when the final decision is made, that all the residents and longtime residents such as myself will be satisfied. Thank you for letting me address you tonight.
Thank you. Any other comment? Good evening.
Hi, my name is Mark Yater. I live at 6426 Willea Drive. I've lived in the subdivision, I think phase one since 2000. And I did not sign the petition, but I'm in favor for it. So I imagine there are a lot of people who did not sign the petition, who may be against it, but there's equal number of people who are for it. So I just want to say I appreciate what Mr. Molesky's done, and I wanted to go with it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, sir.
Russell Kirksey, 7581 Paradise Drive. I've been there 20 years. We were the first home that was built in phase 2. And there are other areas that are in need of repair, not just the entrance. Down there by Paradise and Wailea is severely potholed, and many times I'll have to go out the other way to avoid that. I think it's a very reasonable price that we're getting, and I think that the whole thing should be done, so it should be done right. Otherwise, they'll be back in another couple of years for the parts that they didn't do now. And when they made the presentation, they said when they're in there, they like to do it and do it all at one time. And I think it's very reasonable, and I don't think that we should backtrack and go back from what we want. You know, other people would love to be in our position to be able to pay what we're paying for it.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Bennett?
I'm sorry.
Supervisor
Yes, Mr. Thomas?
You might want to, the last gentleman that spoke was talking about the lineage.
The lineal footage? Mr. Laddie, can you address the how we assess individuals in terms of how that's... It was mentioned that it really wasn't fair that we equally assess everyone.
Well, there are a couple, there's two ways to do it, frankly. And the goal is to try to collect a proportionate amount of money as far as benefit to the property. Now the way you do that in the tax tribunals, you get an appraiser to come in and offer testimony about the before value of property and the after value of the property with the improvement. The statute talks about the possibility of doing it by lineal front footage, right? And so your assessment would be based on how much front foot you have, and there's a formula that you can use to sort of accommodate for the for corner lots. There is no option to do it like a millage, right? So it doesn't have anything to do with the value of your home. It just has to do with the benefit of benefit to your property of the improvement. And what we found, and if anybody recalls differently, I would say of the dozen to 2 dozen of these we've done in the last 15 years or so, no one's come and asked for us to do it on a front footage basis. Everybody in this, I don't know how they arrive at this, but the great majority of neighborhoods, when they come to us, say we just want to do it on a per lot basis. So your choice is either on a front footage basis or just per lot basis. Based on taxable value is not an option. And again, the great majority of the time, people choose to do it on a per unit basis rather than measuring out everybody's property line.
Well, especially if you live on a corner.
Well, there's a formula for that, but it's not very satisfying to
Right.
anybody, as you can imagine.
And everybody uses the road probably equally, but...
Well, and that's the other thing, Corey. If you, and I listen, I'm a lawyer, I can't do math very well, but if the calculus is trying to figure out who drives on what percentage of the road, I mean, that is never in the equation, right? I mean, if you're in a neighborhood, you're gonna drive on that road, probably a lot of people drive in the front of it, very few drive in the back. There's never an effort to try to figure out
Right.
to weight it that way.
Okay, is there anyone else that would care to comment on this issue? Anyone else? Mr. Ert?
It has entered some too much border line. I shouldn't probably even comment on this. But, well,
you live near there.
Maybe just to relieve some,
He lives
because
in the township.
the Drain Commission does a certain thing when they put in a drain, how it affects people. One gentleman was saying that his road is fine, he lives in the back part of the subdivision, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But the Drain Commission looks at this, they assess the people, they have to assess them because they use the front of the subdivision. A person in the back is using all the road, all the way to the back there. So, it is, it's a tough one, how to figure it out, but the guy in the back.
Well, We've heard lots of arguments. People live on cul-de-sacs and what have you, so. With that, unless there's any other comment, we'll close public comment. Anybody else care to comment? We appreciate, everyone being at the meeting, and whether you're in favor or against, we appreciate hearing from you. We certainly appreciate the effort, and I'm sure all of you appreciate the effort of neighbors within your subdivision that are concerned about the appearance of your neighborhood and the property values. And we know we have subdivisions that nobody's taken up that ball or even discussing the issue. But as a township board, we are compelled to look at what the percentage of, those signing the petition are. And we can only vote on basically what we see. If we get down the road and we find out that, the costs are looking much higher, then we can reconsider. But at this point, we have to look at what the residents of that subdivision have stated on paper that they would like. With that, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back here. David, any further comments?
No, just that, again, you have a resolution in front of you that will accept the petitions as submitted, and that will actually create the district, and then they will charge, Mr. Supervisor, your office with coming up with a revised estimate, and then ultimately an assessment roll, which will cause another public hearing, so everybody will be invited back, and we'll be able to talk a little bit about more specific price, and hopefully we can get some additional information from the road commission about the engineering specs and the like. I would suggest, though, that probably we know that they have a bunch of different rounds of bidding, right? And this is not going to be a 2019 project, and so maybe we're not going to want to hold our hearing on the proposed cost until maybe early in the year, I would think, in the new year, and then see if we can get down to more a better detail. But that'll be.
I would concur. I believe that probably in the spring, as we're closer to the bidding process, would be a better time.
They do. I think they bid in the winter time too, so we may want to check with them and find out if we want to hit maybe the end of 19,
beginning of 20.
Beginning of 20.
Okay. I'll leave that to Mr. Limita to check that out with Mr. Sears and Road Commission. Okay, with that, we're closing public hearing, and again, thank you everyone for being here. We will move on now to the next portion of our agenda, and we're looking for approval. Mr. Thomas?
Before the mass exodus, if you just give me a brief minute before the mass exodus, during our consent agenda, we voted on reappointing Sherry Bennett to our 4-year term on the Genesee District Library Board, and she served on it very well and represented our township very well the last term. And I just want to thank Mrs. Bennett for serving again. Thank you. As her husband's our township supervisor, that's why I wanted to bring it up.
I thank the board too for reappointing me. I appreciate it very much.
You do a great job, Sherry.
I enjoy that. It's interesting, it's stimulating, and as people who know me know, I am always very opinionated, and I always make my opinion known.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Thomas.
Can we have a 5-minute break now?
No.
Let's keep moving. Okay, we got to approve the minutes at this point. So is there a motion either individually or as a whole?
Supervisor Bennett?
Mr. Mansour?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the August 6th regular meeting, August 6th executive session, August 8th regular meeting, August 8th executive session, August 27th regular meeting, and August 27th executive session, hoping that we won't have this trifecta again.
Support.
Okay.
That's all right. He took
Okay. Okay. So we need another agenda here, I think. Here, I've got one right here. Sorry about that. Okay, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? With that, the consent agenda items, I was going to pull off the one about Miss Bennett being appointed, but Mr. Thomas did that. So with that, we will move on to operational issues. And the The board will consider a resolution to accept the special assessment district to repave Grand Walea subdivision road paving. We heard some discussion, but it's evident that the signatures are there. You know, it takes some initiative on residents to get out and do that, which I honor people for doing that. It's a thankless job, and a lot of times, you know, you get a lot of negative feedback, but these are people that care about our township and care about their neighborhood, so it's hard for me to argue that their work isn't worthwhile. So is there a motion to accept their request?
That's a resolution.
It's a resolution.
Right, but we need a motion and a second first.
That's a move.
Second.
Okay. With that, Ms. Lane?
Mr. Mansour?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Atkins?
Yes.
Mr. Guzak?
Yes.
Mr. Massey?
Yes.
Myself, yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Back up. Do we have an executive meeting?
Of course.
Oh.
The next item on the agenda we discussed at length on Tuesday. The board will consider a motion to approve the clerk's request to purchase 2 HART scanners, memory cards, and batteries for the amount of $11,294, and this is for our upcoming elections.
I'll make the motion. Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next item on the agenda, the board will consider a motion to approve the proposal from Case Construction for the Perry House kitchen remodel in the amount of $13,000 and authorize Township Superintendent to execute all necessary agreements.
So move.
Second.
Okay?
Discussion?
Yeah. Mr. Mansour.
Does this include the installation of the previously purchased kitchen sink?
I don't know about the previously purchased kitchen sink, but in the sound of it, there will be a kitchen sink in it.
Okay. Just one.
So I asked that we get a color chart so that we can choose.
Call for the motion.
Great idea.
But they told me it's
Call
going
for
to be
the
white,
motion.
so with butcher black countertops. I said, okay, we'll go with that then. But,
Call the question, Mr. Chair.
well, I'm seeing if there's any more discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we'll be in time for our Pioneer Days, I take it? That's the
No.
plan anyways.
No way.
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
They've got to order the cabinets, and that's going to take.
They're on their way, I think.
You already ordered
So,
them?
Yeah, the plan is to have it done by.
right, by the Pioneer Day.
So you should go, so you can
Bet
see
you
the new
money.
kitchen.
Yeah.
You want to
That's the chair.
Ken's gonna cook something up for us there. Yes.
Nope.
Just a
I'm going to warm
question.
something up.
Sure.
Thomas Appliance warming up.
I guess for
Okay, we have a
someone,
question here for someone from
in
the Historic
audience
Commission.
that may be able to answer about Perry House, about the kitchen sink. Will this sink accommodate all of the pots and pans that you use in the kitchen?
We aren't allowed to,
It's
we're not
not-
allowed to do any cooking, but we need to clean up our utensils, and yes.
It's gonna be one of those big.
There's no stove and oven in there.
Oh, okay. So it'll be a large sink.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like Jenny said, we don't really cook anything there, but we have big, containers, containers and that we.
Right.
And platters.
No, the reason I asked the question, some sinks are so, they may appear to be large to others, but when you have large containers, they're very difficult to wash. I want to make sure that that's cleared up before we move forward.
Joe's volunteering
Yes.
to get them washed up.
Measure the
Much better
sink.
than the faucet outside in front of the house
Okay.
and the hose.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, what's wrong with the hand wall? The hand wall.
Well, thank you very much for your work, and we'll see you in a few weeks.
Thanks.
Okay,
Great.
thanks. The next item on the agenda, the board will consider a motion to approve the installation of metal roofs on the baseball field quad pavilion roof and the small pond view pavilion roof by Lockhart Roofing for $24,290, and add the option for the gutters and downspouts for an additional $24,440. Authorize the township superintendent to execute all related contracts and agreements for a total of $26,730.
So move.
Okay, motion support. Okay, Mr. Atkins?
I don't know if we should amend it or if just pass this down, but
The beautification committee has decided on forest green.
I'll include that in the
Can you pass
motion,
that down,
Mr.
Bill?
Chair.
Well, well, let's leave it to Dennis to make sure for it, because if there's a problem with that green, then we're gonna have to, you know, if there's a problem getting it or whatever.
I always
So-
like to.
I got it.
Okay. he's got it.
All right.
That looks like Spartan green to me.
It's a good color.
All right, so the motion has been seconded. Any further discussion, Mr.
So I
Mansour?
have a question, just the cost of this repair is coming out of millage money? Is it coming out of
Park
general?
millage funds.
So, park millage funds, thank you.
Mr. Gruzak?
Yeah, the only question I had is, I know Mr. Sears said that they were gonna put the gutters on. Is this $2,440, is that what the DPW part putting it on, or is the Lockhart gonna do it?
Lockhart.
Lockhart's gonna do it. We canceled the order that we'd already placed for the gutters and downspouts and moved it over to them. Our DPW crew is involved with the golf tournament this weekend if we wanna move it forward. Plus we can get the color match at the same time by having Lockhart do it.
Okay, yeah, I just want to verify what was going
Yeah.
on. Thank you.
Yeah, I saw the update. Okay, so we're all good with that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next on the agenda, the board will review the performance evaluation of Superintendent Dennis Lemata. Mr. Laddie?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Superintendent Lemata, we are going to discuss your job performance. Would you like this done in open or closed session?
Open session, please.
I think that's a good choice, considering the result of the performance review. As the board knows, and we've been through this at least twice with Mr. Lemata with this board, the board has the opportunity to grade the superintendent's performance and also provide comments. And the possible grades for the superintendent include unacceptable, needs improvement, good performance, or consistently performs above requirements. And there are 13 questions. And of the 13 questions in the performance review, when you combined all the results, Mr. Lemata received 88 of a possible 91 responses in the good or consistently performs above requirements. So I think by numerical standards, that is a very successful evaluation. In fact, I think just rough estimates, of the possible 91 responses, 48 of them were consistently performs above requirements and 39 were good performance. There were some comments that were added to the evaluations, which you're invited to do, and Mr. Lemata has a copy of the results of the grading of his performance, but also of those comments. So if anybody wants to expand or share those comments, or if Mr. Lemata wants to respond to those comments, he's welcome to do that. But again, for the third time, and for sure second time with this board, looks like you all have recorded excellent results for the performance of the superintendent.
Mr. Massey?
Mr. Attorney Laddie, I recall, I can't pull it, oh, I got it coming up here. I would like to talk about the savings that the superintendent has saved the township in special areas. I think one was the $120,000 per year, something greater than that.
Well, there are a number of categories where he saved a lot of money, and I think maybe the $120,000 has to do with the renegotiation of the retiree health care package, which he was able to, am I correct on that? Is that what you think about the 120? He was able to meet with the retirees who were contractually entitled to a certain level of benefit, and only through persuasion, really, got them to voluntarily sign up for a less expensive healthcare program for us, but one that also provides them with the same or similar or better benefits. And so you're right about that. That's one example of some cost savings that he has taken the initiative on and accomplished.
Because that cost saving was significant to the township.
It is, and as I think back, I think the first job Mr. Lemata had was to sort through an RFP for a healthcare provider. Nearly your first day, I think you had to come in here. And I'm recalling that we ended up with a much more efficient economically and beneficial package to the employees at that point in time too. And then dovetailing on that, there was the implementation of the contributions of the employees to that, and also the buy-in from the unions to participate in that plan. So it really is a long line of economic savings for nearly from the first day.
Would you agree with me that some municipalities are suffering from the lack of an adequate health care revision because they're spending more dollars than they have?
Yeah, I would agree with that, yes.
Okay.
And while we're not perfect, we're definitely on the positive side of those numbers.
Okay, as long as you and I agree. Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to comment? Mr. Laddie, were you finished with what you were
I
going?
am. If anybody has any comments or questions, the floor is yours.
Mr. Atkins?
Yeah, just addressing through you, Chair, to just directly to Dennis. I think, personally, I think you've done a pretty decent job this year, especially with a lot of things that were on your plate in terms of the fire department. And, you know, the year's not over yet, so so I've been pretty pleased with that. I know that can get a little tough, especially with you know, in the private sector, you deal with as a manager, director, vice president, you deal with a certain set of people, and not a whole lot changes. This is more of a dynamic situation or environment, and I had to keep that in consideration when I do your evaluation, that it's a lot different. It's easy to go into it thinking of a private sector mindset, but this is fast moving. You have a lot of feedback from the community, real-time responses, and you're trying to please a lot of people. So I do appreciate what you've done this year. Thank you.
It is interesting. I was thinking of the you know, the dynamics of business versus government. You know, in terms of being the chief officer, operating officer, which Mr. Lehman is here for our township. You know, in business, the dynamics are that you know, it's profit driven, trying to provide, you know, a return to investors. Here in the township, you know, and even the employee situation is a little bit different in a for-profit, right, than at a township. And he's got a board that he has to deal with, and, residents, employees, 160 of them. Yeah, and trying to balance all of those things. We've over the years, you know, I've got a short history compared to some of the board members here, but in the limited time that I've had here, I've you know, been with 2 different superintendents that have operated the township, and it's not only just being a manager of people, but it's also having a vision for where you want to go. I mean, I know our board provides vision, and that's our job, is to look out. But Mr. Lehman is looking at how do we implement that vision, but also how do I supplement that vision that the board has, because there's some things that we may think, hey, this would be great, but when we look at, hey, this is a government entity and we can't do it that way necessarily, but maybe there's another way we can do it. So I think, you know, what Mr. Lehman brings to the table is his business background, yet his knowledge that he's gained of, you know, government operations, I think is unique. I think, you know, if we were to go out in the marketplace, we'd probably find people that are, you know, from the business sector, and then we'd find people from the government sector. But what I think Mr. Lehman helps us with is that he has both those perspectives, and I think that helps us. I know when we were looking for a superintendent, one of the things that I was focused on is we had to find somebody who was good with personnel, because it was something that I think that you get busy with everything else, and that's one of the things that you can just, you know, a lot of people probably just say, hey, you know what? I don't have time to deal with that. That's going to have to come at the end of the list, that we've got to do all these other things first. And I think, hiring HR person was fabulous, but I think, Dennis also has some great coaching skills with employees, as well as, I've been with him with a number of developers and individuals from the business world that want to come and do business here in the township. And I think that he handles both of those very well. I think, you look at the multitude of activities that we're into, whether it's the water and sewer, building department, finance. It really takes a master of all trades to run a township, much like, a business. So I'm pleased with what we've seen. I know, we're looking at just the past year with this evaluation, but I think, we've made such huge strides. The fire department, we're cleaning up a lot of messes, and I know our board would like to move very fast through some of these things, but trying to do it well takes some time. And I appreciate the job that you've done, Mr. Limita, and look forward to even more success in the future.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr.
I have a
Massey.
question.
Yes.
I don't think we ever talked about this. It just come to me as you were making comment. Is that all of the new businesses that have come into the township since the superintendent has been here, do we have an account of those new businesses? Some of them brought in billions of dollars.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things we could ask our building planning department to do is to compile a list. I think it would be great to even see that on a map somewhere of all the new business that we've had, just to brag a little bit about our township. Whether it's the Magna plant, whether it's McLaren's headquarters, Dork Federal's headquarters, you name it. I mean, over the past several years, we've been exploding in growth, and I think it'd be something neat to have on the website, and maybe even something to have displayed here in our front entryway. But it's an excellent idea. Mr. Atkins?
More maybe for Mr. Laddie. I could be mistaken, but I think there was an additional attachment to this year's evaluation, the goal setting section, or was that also, I don't remember that last year. That was?
I think that was
All the blank forms are attached,
Yeah. It was on last year's as well, I believe, yeah.
Yeah, it's the same format, right?
Okay, all right.
Yep.
I've got last year's here.
Okay.
Okay, with that, unless there's any more comment, Mr. Limita, you'd like to make a comment, and then I think we're going to ask to go in executive session. So, Mr. Limita?
Please, if you would. First off, let me just thank the board for your vote of confidence in me and some of the things we're accomplishing here. I appreciate you taking the time. I appreciate you taking the time to make some comments. I probably will reach out individually and maybe have some conversations with those who commented and to talk a little bit about where your comments were rather than discuss them here. But I'd also just like to recognize the great group of department heads that I am lucky enough to have around me, because that makes a big difference on, you rating us on how well we do, but it really, I couldn't do that by myself. I couldn't operate, on my own, and if it wouldn't be possible if I didn't have the group that I have with me. We really do have a group of dedicated employees here that we try to change that culture, that mindset about being the #1 municipality. We want people to come in here every day, and when they leave, they don't know why it's different. They just know it's different. It's about making sure that we provide that customer service. We work on it on a daily basis. Every other week, we have our administrative staff meetings, and we talk about what are we going to do next. How do we get better than we are? You're only as good as what you're going to do tomorrow. We've had some good success in the past. What are you going to do tomorrow? And that's a lot of where our conversation goes. And again, I just want to thank you for your vote of confidence. Thank you for taking the time to go through the performance evaluation. And at the same time, I really want to recognize the staff that we have here that made it all possible. So thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I would move that we go into executive session to discuss contract negotiations.
Support.
Yeah.
Okay, let's call the question then.
Mr. Massey?
Yes.
Mr. Mansour?
Yep.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Atkins?
Yes.
Mr. Kruzak?
Yes.
Myself, Mr. Chair.
Yes.